It's the finale, people. The final episode of the second major Disney Plus TV series. Did it live up truly to the mantra of one world, one people, as the Flag Smashers so graciously put it? Chris, we're finally ending another phase of Marvel for quite a long time next time. How you feeling?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's another phase, but the series is over. I'm feeling pretty great to talk about this tonight because I have a lot to say. I've read some articles about, of course, everyone's theorizing and some stuff, honestly, I hate to do that route, but there is some, I'd say, worth their salt arguments to be brought up. So I think we have a great show for you guys tonight. We have a panel of guests, of course. So yeah, Dom, should we get into this?
Take it away. Let's go. All right, we got Joe, we got Yolo, and we got Nick. What's going on, guys? Happy to have you on the final panel episode for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the second major MCU property to land on Disney Plus within the year of 2021. Let's just go around. I just want to hear your guys' thoughts, just like now that this is over. Like, what happens next? You know, Yolo, I want to start with you.
Yeah, like I'm really excited for Loki because Loki is like the one that's gonna come next. Also, like we saw today, they after they finish this show, they're talking about doing a new Captain America. So I think that's also cool and what is set up. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming. So it's a great time to be a superhero fan.
Most definitely, indeed. Nick, what are your thoughts on this final episode?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that we're here, that it's over. It felt so quick, like 6 weeks of time put into this, and now it's just over like that. But I don't know. In terms of like what the future holds, like I'm looking forward to everything that they have slated. Like Shang-Chi, definitely. Shang-Chi looks amazing. It looks so different, and that's what I want from Marvel. I'm excited for Black Widow. I'm excited for Loki. Like, bring it on. But I'm just, I don't know. I'm excited to see what could happen next for these characters, and with the different loose ends that have been kind of put out there by Marvel. Mm-hmm. It's going to be kind of exciting to figure out what's next. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really love this show, and I'm sad that it's over. But also at the same time, like, I'm happy that I can go back to, talking about Star Wars and other things for a little bit and kind of take a little bit of a break from Marvel.
The other Disney properties. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Joe, my friend, my rival at most points, probably the person that I would say is probably most easily my sworn enemy as far as like internet, hype terms go. What are your thoughts now on the future of just kind of where the machine goes next, let's call it?
Well, thank you for that beautiful introduction, Dom.
Oh, you're welcome.
On that note, I'm excited for Loki. I think that's a show that I'm really looking forward to. I'm also excited to have like a 6 or 7 week break in between now and then, because it was a little, it was a lot. But I'm happy with how they finished up this series. I think they did a good job with at least the main two characters, the leads, and I'm pleased with that. There are some concerns I have about Marvel moving forward, so not to be a naysayer, but there's some red flags that were thrown up in this series, and I'm a little worried about where they're going to take them in the future, but I'm sure we'll get into that. But in terms of what's coming up, Loki, I'm really pumped about because obviously he is just a fun character. For everything Nick said about Shang-Chi being something different and taking us in a new direction for Marvel, I'm very pumped about that. Black Widow, been excited for that. And actually the Eternals is the one that I'm really looking forward to. So I want to see what they do with that. And let's get rolling with these movies.
And of course, my compatriot, my co-host, my ride or die, my car shifting buddy, the guy who I would not be able to do this podcast without, Chris Evenko. It's over now. What happens next?
Yeah, hopefully the internet stops spoiling things. I mean, not that I wouldn't have been able to piece together the whole spoiler alert, I guess, before anyone freaks out here. Sharon Carter reveal, but I mean, it would have been fun to have come to that conclusion on my own and to have at least been able to seen it and realize it with my own eyes. I'm really hoping that some etiquette comes in like the online community, although that won't come. I'm sure maybe I just have to stay off Twitter, which is difficult when you're trying to promote podcasts. But hey, honestly, man, like Joe, Nick, and Yolo said, we have a lot coming down the pike. We have the rumored but pretty serious rumor of Captain America 4, obviously with Anthony Mackie taking up the mantle as the new Captain America, continuing from what we saw here tonight, or today, whenever you watched it, last night rather, for me, pretty late, just couldn't sleep. But anyways, it's there's a lot to look forward to. The only real thing that I'm like kind of upset about is it was very difficult for me to not see Simu Liu as Jung in the trailer for Shang-Chi. I was like, oh man, this is cool, and I'm happy for him, but
that just made it more awesome. Made it
Jung,
more awesome.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I just like, man, it's just when you love a show that much, that's a personal thing. A lot of personal things I gotta get over, it seems. So welcome to my therapy hour, I suppose. But what about you,
we
Don?
had an actual therapist in the show. Yeah, so I was looking forward to being done with the show. I'll be completely honest as far as that goes. I needed a break from Marvel. I'm like, wow, I kind of wanted to see where Marvel went, but like I wasn't expected to be this inundated this quick and to have the first 4 months of this year almost completely dominated by Marvel content. I'm like, I need a break, so I'm glad that I'm getting at least a month before we get flush with it again. I'm looking forward to that break. I'm looking forward also to the animated Star Wars content that I'm watching after this overall. But like the amount of just news stories that have been dropping and that seem to have been dropping exclusively about Disney and like the last couple of weeks has been concerning to me, to say the least. It just continues to show like kind of Disney's stranglehold on the industry and kind of like the inability for other smaller films that we love to get recognized, like I've been keeping a track of attention to smaller news, like movies like Coda, which, well, from what I heard is like a generic festival hit, just got a release date from Apple TV for a July, I believe. There's also an incredible Taylor Sheridan movie coming to HBO Max called Those Who Wish Me Dead. And those are the films that you should be watching instead of the typical Marvel content. And this is my Dom Rizzi overall. Now,
I don't know what news sources you're looking at, but if you follow guyatthemovies.com, we do keep on top of all these date changes. And
well, then in that case, silent plug for you, Joe, as well, because I advocate for sites like yours. All right, so without further ado, I don't know why you guys just got muted there.
Well, we muted ourselves to be respectful. It's your big moment, man. You're
sorry.
doing the recap.
Sorry,
Come on.
Sorry. I wasn't sure. I thought it was a glitch in the system. All right. So, moving on. Final episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier recap section. Episode 6, the finale. One World, One People, directed by Kerry Scoglin and written by series showrunner Malcolm Spellman and Joseph Sawyer. Wearing the new Captain America uniform and flight suits forward from the Wakandans. That's right, they're not even waiting to, not reveal that. What's it called? I probably should have said spoiler alert ahead of time, but guess what? Hopefully you see the episode by now. Anyways, he gets his new Captain America uniform and flight suit from the Wakandans. He flies directly into New York in order to help stop the Flag Smashers attack with help from Barnes, Sharon, and Walker, who just kind of unexpectedly shows up. He's going to get that out of the way because it really sucks because he was a seriously awesome character and they kind of end up doing nothing with him. However, during the fight, of course, the Flag Smashers get separated. Sam goes after Carly. Bucky helps dispatch of some of the ones with John in a flight garage. Afterwards, Carly manages to run away and runs into Sharon, who reveals, surprise, surprise, that she is indeed the power broker, along with, to Batroc the Leaper, who, of course, somehow wasn't able to guess that she was the power broker to begin with. Okay, she ends up killing him. But Carly shoots her in the leg and makes a run for it. Sam tries to reason with her. He tries to do the whole "I'm not going to fight you" thing that Cap did with Bucky and Winter Soldier. And it unfortunately just did not work here. And ultimately it ended with Sharon killing Carly and Sam bringing her down in front of all the senators in a really weird way overall. Just like the kind of visual imagery that scene invoked. However, he ends up convincing the GRC to postpone the forced relocation of displaced people that Carly died fighting for, and instead attempt to make treatments to help them, quoting such quoting such figures and kind of translating across certain kind of, let's just say, modern day dialogue to kind of the higher up suits. Meanwhile, the remaining serum-enhanced Flag Smashers are caught by Bucky and John and sent to the Raft prison. However, along route, they are blown up by Zemo's butler, of all people. And the last shot, of course, we see of Zemo is him in the raft, silently smiling. Of course, still as of right now, the only actual villain that we have locked up in there. And finally, in a couple of quick scenes hinting at the future. DeFontaine, Julia Louis-Dreyfus again. Oh, that casting. I still don't know if I'm going to get used to it. Gives Walker his new uniform and codename U.S. Agent. And, of course, Bucky makes amends with everyone that he hurt or enabled as the Winter Soldier, while Sam has a memorial dedicated to Isaiah evoked in the Captain America Museum exhibit. And all ends happily with Sam and Bucky celebrating on that damn boat. But wait, we're not done yet. In a mid-credit scene, after she indeed receives her full pardon, Sharon rejoins the CIA. But of course, there's a sweet twist at the end where she ends up calling her super secret true boss, the true power broker per se, and saying that she now has access to all sorts of new crazy projects. What could this mean for the future of the MCU? Tune into the next 4 billion properties that they have coming out to eventually get fooled into a pretty lame answer. So, with that being said,
Wow.
that is the recap.
Someone's bias is on display.
That
God.
is the recap section of the final episode. Now we get into our positives and negatives section. I'm going to start random this time. I'm going to go with Nick this time first. Tell me some of the things that you liked and some of the things that you didn't like about this episode.
Yeah, so I guess I can start with things I didn't like just because I feel like I don't really have that many. I will say the one thing that to me I think didn't work necessarily all that well was I do hear the kind of complaints of people saying that it's like the rushed like avenge story for John Walker. It is kind of sad that they didn't really do much with him in this episode, which is unfortunate. But I have a lot of hope that they'll do something in the future with him, whether that be Captain America 4, whether that be, something that I said that they should do is like a White Wolf series or something like that, if they wanted to down the line. Whatever they're going to do with him next, I'm looking forward to, because I really thought his character was fascinating, and Wyatt Russell is an incredible actor and talent to kind of just almost go to the wayside. Other than that, though, like I really liked pretty much most everything that they gave us in this episode. I don't think the show's perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but what I really liked was I loved the reveal of Sam's suit. I thought it looks amazing. I think he looks freaking amazing as Captain America. I love the line. I know that it was kind of like a hit on the head, but I really love the line of where you have that random guy going, "Oh, that's Black Falcon," and the other guy goes, "No, that's Captain America." I literally said that's Captain America right at the same time that he did it. It was awesome. So I loved all of that. I really think that, and like I said last week with you guys, like Sam is as worthy as Steve Rogers at this point. And I like the fact that, the show ends and there's, we don't have to worry about Steve Rogers anymore. We have a new direction with this new Captain America. Does that mean Steve Rogers is gone? No, I don't. Nobody's ever truly gone in the MCU. Let's be honest. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Sam's adventures, what he's going to do next as Captain America. I love the scene with Isaiah at the end. Oh my gosh, that was great. I had chills. Having that one part of the museum exhibit be for him and what he did and the sacrifices that he made for the country. That was awesome. I think that was the end of his story. I don't think we'll ever see Isaiah again, unfortunately. I just don't see that really being a thing, because, I mean, he got, like, his story was basically like America forgets all of the things that I did, and then it ends with America remembering all the things that he did. So I think that that's basically it for his arc. And I'm okay with that. I truly am okay with that. I loved the action sequences. Again, this felt like Winter Soldier for me, which is my favorite MCU movie. So clearly I'm going to be biased towards that because I just got that feel. And I just, overall, the experience was a lot of fun. I'm happy it's over though, because I can move, like I said, I can move on to the Bad Batch and other things that I'm looking forward to, and dive deeper into worlds that I maybe personally love just a little bit more. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, over Marvel any day. Like, I'd take Star Wars any day over the MCU. Just personal choice. I know that's very, you can have your own opinion. But I really loved, I loved what we got. I love the ending with these characters. The fact that they're no longer at odds with each other because they were fighting for that affection of being Steve Rogers number one. Now it's them together united as one. And maybe, I guess if I had to give one more negative real quick, I guess the thing that irks me is still Bucky Barnes is still treated as a side character. I hate that because I love his character so much, and there's so much you could do with his character. And he's still going to be the sidekick to Captain America. I mean, I get it, but I don't love it per se. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.
Interesting. Joe, some of your initial positives and negatives going into this episode.
So just to link up with what Nick was saying there in terms of Bucky, I do agree. I think he's one of the unsung heroes of the MCU in terms of what he brings to the table. And I really enjoyed him in this series. I enjoy Sebastian Stan as an actor in general. If you haven't seen him in some of the dramas that he's in and even some of the old properties from when he was considered a young actor, he's in quite a bit that's pretty solid. I talked about this last time I was on. I do really like how they handled the black societal issues wrapped up in Sam becoming Captain America. I think they addressed it head on, and they did it. They used humor sometimes, but I mean, especially this week, they wrapped it up with such an emotional soliloquy from Sam that was very well done. And at first I was like, oh, where are they going with this? But, looking at the totality of it, it was really impactful. And I think, take that for what it is. There's a lot of people out there saying like Disney's becoming too woke, but I mean, you get left in the dark if you're not keeping up with what is actually happening in the world today. So I like how they handled that. Overall, I enjoyed this episode. I like that it was action from beginning to end. And I really like how they wrapped up Isaiah. That shot of Bucky and Sam when they're, at like the crawfish party or whatever, but they're looking out at the sun. And it's just such a great shot. I was like, it made me feel really good about where they ended up after starting at that, like, we're at odds and we're not partners thing. They did a good job with that. And so those rumors of potentially seeing a follow-up or a season 2, I should say, I'm now on board with that. I would love to see what they do. What will they tackle there? Who knows? I'm sure that by that point, we'll be in a completely different place with Marvel, but I would like to see those two fleshed out a little bit more once again.
Yeah, there was something that I noticed there with the TV show, specifically with the kind of like the post-credits movie announcement at the end that I wanted to talk about later on and kind of like connections to the universe and where it'll go in the future. But
yeah.
Chris, overall...
Oh, wait, no, I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
My arch enemy there. No, so my two negatives, though, one is definitely John Walker. I have a real problem with how they handled him in this episode. They kind of built him up and were setting him up as like, of course, last time we saw him, he was broken, and we saw Julia Louis-Dreyfus come in and all of that. What bothered me here was he literally killed a dude and kind of got a pass in this episode. They were like, oh, well, he's cool now, he's helping. And
Marvel's
I'm like,
lack of accountability showing its hand hard here.
I was like, okay,
Him
so
and Bucky were like high-fiving for practically for a second.
I was like, whoa. I'm like, there's
seems...
villains switching sides, and then there's this. Like, you can't, this was a direct, you can't eat your cake and have your cake and eat it too situation.
The only reprimanding Bucky gave him, he was like, really? You're going to quote Abe Lincoln? And then they walked off and we got a beer or something.
Yeah. Like, it annoyed me. It seems like there's probably a deleted scene or 2 or 3 or 5 that would help kind of connect those. But the way they were handled, I really didn't care for. And the other thing is, I talked about the Wakandans being extra to me when they were.
You almost missed them now, right?
Not really. But what I'll say is that I feel that way with Sharon Carter. I mean, clearly they're setting up something in the future with her. Am I excited about it? On a scale of 1 to 10, no. I just felt like she was underwhelming this entire series, and they threw her in just to say, like, look who's back. And, her reveal as the power broker, of course, was rumored online for a long time. And I was like, please don't let that be it. But it's obviously going to be it. Now we know it is. And I'm not invested in her at all. And when she got shot, I was like, yes. And then when she survived, I was like, fuck. But
it's like they're hyping up like the least excitable shit that you should like get excited for.
Well, and I mean, that's a preview of what we can talk about, like when we're talking about future down the road. But like, I'm worried about the reliance on characters that I really don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
And we'll see where that goes.
Can I just say real quick? I wanted to bring this point up because I forgot to say it. I had theorized back when we first saw Sharon Carter that she was a power broker. And you know what? I am happy that I was right. And here's the only reason why. Because freaking WandaVision completely took every single theory and everything that would have made the MCU interesting. Even the things like, I don't want to be right. Like that's not my whole thing. But it's like, I want things to actually make sense. If you're going to bring in Pietro, make it something that is connected to something bigger than, oh, it's a boner joke. So like, that's all I want to say is like, I'm happy that we actually had a theory that came alive that actually is going to end up to go to something in the future. Granted, are we excited about it? I mean, no, I'm not really that excited about it either. I don't really care that much. Not that I don't like Sharon Carter or Emily Van Camp, but I'm just happy that we finally got a theory that
logic,
logic, and it's not just thrown in there for a stupid boner joke.
Yeah, indeed. We'll talk about that when we talk about that in the future. I just wanted to give Luke's comment a shout out. Luke says, I love John Walker as a character, and I definitely want to see more, but he went from revenge-fueled maniac to cracking jokes and his black suit in one foul swoop. They dropped the ball a little there. I could not agree more overall on that. But Chris, I can tell you've been chomping at the bit in order to say your piece. So what are some of your positives and negatives for this episode and this finale and overall this season and latest installment in your favorite franchise ever at the MCU?
Sure, yeah. And I think after YOLO and you give your positives and negatives, we just got to just have a free-form discussion because it seems like everyone's just raising amazing points, but like Luke in the chat as well. And so honestly, man, the biggest takeaway for me from this thing is MCU really needs to learn how to budget their time on these limited series. Because now that I've seen all of WandaVision and now that I've seen all of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's very unfortunate how there are some really promising threads and some really interesting hooks that honestly I was sinking my teeth into. Like, let's just talk about how I was like super in on like the whole, sitcom of the week the first like 2 weeks after I sort of realized like, okay, they're actually paying homage to these sort of like different genres and the time period, but then like it didn't manage its time well, and so that initial hook and that initial thread kind of ended up falling short, whereas this show was weird because it took me a little while to get into, but then I realized like, whoa, John Walker, something so different, something so much of what I've been looking for in the MCU, taking that sort of bold approach where we're and honestly, I think MCU has had sort of representation and real world sort of let's call them themes before, but I think this was clearly the show to sort of be like, hey, like we're not only expanding our repertoire as far as like bringing in new characters that we've never seen for Phase 4, but I thought we were getting a little more grounded, and so I was really into that for a little while, and I wanted it to continue and stay through, but it just felt like they dropped the ball with so many of these like interesting threads, like for example, John Walker, like where was that Dark Night of the Soul? Where was that? I guess we had that at the start of last episode, but where was that moment then where Bucky became okay with it? Where's that moment where it justifies them walking off and sort of, it's okay, bud, just don't use Lincoln next time. Ha 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 ha. You helped me. Like, sure, he helped you save the day, right? But if you weren't there and if he was in the slightest ticked off more mood, he might have had more blood on his hands. It's like we didn't answer that. And so you finally give us like a depth of realism that is going past like the comic pages where we can actually, use actors and the art of filmmaking to beg, I'd say, some deeper questions than we normally get. And I mean, Watchmen's an exceptional comic, but most of the Marvel comics I've read don't take that route. And then they just walk it back. And with Sharon Carter, the whole sort of like country not pardoning her and giving up on her, and that whole sort of like expatriate thing, which I thought was so interesting and honestly like a valid sort of group of people that I'd say kind of get forgotten, and we just dropped that too. And she gets her pardon and she comes back and now she can operate fully as the power broker. And I just feel like they stopped exploring the interesting stuff right when they got to the part that made it interesting. And it's frustrating to me. Positives, these actors kicked ass. They all really crushed their performances. I mean, I wasn't the biggest Winter Soldier fan until this series. I didn't think he brought too much to the, movie that's named after him. I just really enjoy that film for kind of like the action set pieces and just it being one of the more, I guess, different tonal MCU movies. I feel like they become an amalgamation shortly after that, but I've said that a million times on this show. We don't need to get into that right now. But I don't know, like, what did you guys think? Like, I just felt like we asked some really great questions, but then we kind of just dropped them and went back to our typical MCU comfort zone, and that was frustrating for me.
Yeah, that's kind of a lot of my thoughts on it as well. My whole thing with this was, okay, how much is this going to deliver on the action and how much is going to be the melodrama? And it turned out to be exactly 50-50 because the first half was the complete action spectacle set piece that I was expecting it to be. And then the last half hour was the kind of sappy melodrama that kind of wrapped up everything with kind of its political messages that it's trying to pass across, and it ends up dragging way too long and making what should be like kind of a quick, decent wrap-up, apparently, because the action set piece seems to wrap everything up without answering any of the lingering questions. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say the one last thing that came to mind. In regards to them sort of tackling new social issues, I thought they actually did a good job with sort of like giving the Falcon, like, because, you know, like, I mean, I obviously grew up a little white kid, but like I don't really remember too many like strong, powerful black heroes. So I think they did a great job with that. But there were so many other interesting threads with the globalism aspect and the whole sort of like change. And that's like, I'm glad they didn't drop the ball on that one because that's the big main one. But I just felt like they left it hanging there. I'm sorry, Dom. I just wanted to get that out before we got too far away from it because that was like, I just forgot it in the moment, you know?
Guys, I really need to hear what my arch nemesis, Unyolo, Big J, has to say about all this.
It's a good thing I was switching to him next. YOLO, some of your initial likes and dislikes.
Okay, so I'm gonna be that guy today. Okay, so like people that know me know that I'm a huge Marvel fan, but they completely ruined the show today for me. Like this episode completely like
come to the dark side.
No, and I have to be fair because I criticize DC, I criticize like Mortal Kombat this week for like just trying to set things up and forgetting about the story. And the thing is, WandaVision, there was a more contained story in a way, had 8 episodes, and this one for some reason had 6. And that's completely like, for me, it's missing 2 episodes here. It's missing like everything was rushed. We go like from like the episode 4 that for me is one of the best things Marvel ever did to this one. They completely like ruined everything, like the character of Walker, even the action scene. Like we got the same exact action scene on episode 1 with the helicopters that is a lot better than the one we got on this one. The one that we have Falcon in the beginning, it's even better than this one. So even the action scene, everything was so rushed. It was just completely like forgotten everything that they did. Like I don't remember what episode was, but I was already annoyed when Zemo killed the guy and they completely forgot it the next moment and they went in the car and they did it again, even worse on this one. So and the thing is, I just felt that they were setting things up for like we spent like 4 or 5 episodes with Zemo for him to just be put in a jail because we know it's going to set up something in the future. And then on one episode, we have the Falcon getting the suit, dressing up, being Captain America, going and doing everything he had to do. Then like it just makes no sense how rushed this episode was. And for me, it completely destroyed everything they did before. Like, because I just felt that this series has no point unless to set up a bunch of stuff that we're probably going to see it in a year or 2 or in the next Captain America. And like WandaVision, whatever people say, I think he stands on his own like as a great show. And this one just stands as like setting all these things up. And there's like little clues probably for Armor Wars or whatever it's going to be called. There's little clues for like Thunderbird. There's like everything setting up. And then like like I was already annoyed when he was getting over. But then when we get that extra scene with Agent Carter, that was like that was just like she I don't know, like she's not even a good actress on that part. I just like that limp is fake as shit, and like she's like I just really got annoyed because the other thing is like it's like they forget what they write. When we saw Zemo is like saying, "Oh, I know the power broker. I met him before," and then we like. What happened there? Did he forgot? What, like, there's so much stuff
Maybe
there.
Maybe it's a Dread Pirate Roberts thing. Maybe it's the fact that the power broker passes from master to apprentice, and whoever takes over. And
oh my gosh!
Retires.
Yeah, and it probably is something like that. It's probably something like the Mandarin again. She's not really the one.
She's Mephisto.
Yeah, and so in the end of the day, is like they set a bunch of stuff up. But if I criticize other franchises for like just to be too worried about like setting things up and not doing a good show or a good movie. I have to be fair, and Marvel, this is probably the first time for me since Thor 2, the Dark World, that Marvel
don't mean that.
dropped the ball. That is, for me, is the first time that I really feel that they dropped the ball really, really hard.
Was there any positives for you?
Can I just say real quick, Yolo?
Yeah,
I just wanted to say real quick, what you just mentioned to me, what you said, is exactly how I feel about WandaVision.
Same though, honestly, same
way about
Oh,
WandaVision.
Yes
No,
and
cool.
for me. I feel more strongly inclined towards WandaVision because I enjoyed the first half a lot more. This one, I enjoyed the middle half the most. I didn't really enjoy the first episode. The second episode was kind of good. What I feel like the easiest way to solve kind of the length issues with this episode, besides it just being one movie, was if they made this episode and the last episode just one episode. If they did that all as one episode and made it like a full 2-hour thing, I think it would have worked completely.
I still think it would be rushed. Like the issue is it would still be rushed.
It certainly would be. It needed like 3 more episodes. Absolutely.
I totally agree. There was so much missing. But YOLO, man, everyone else got to give their positives, and I just want to give you the opportunity. Did you have any before we kind of open it up for just like a more broad sort of discussion?
It's over. That's probably the one. Like,
Oh my God,
look, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry because like you guys even brought up.
That's the best.
You guys brought up. You guys brought up the acting. Even the acting was better on other episodes. So like I can't even bring that up. Like this one was like even the suit of Falcon. I don't know. It's just like shiny and latex, and it seems like I don't have any positive. Sorry, it's over, and I think that's pretty much it. Like
that was the hardest mic drop we've ever had on this show overall.
But that really was. But if I remember,
go on after that,
if I remember correctly, YOLO, you like didn't hate it fully when we last talked 2 weeks ago, right?
No, like I said, the last time we talked was on episode 4, and he ended up with that scene of the shield with the blood and stuff, and it was one of the best things I ever saw Marvel doing it.
And Marvel does what it always does.
And I think that's the problem. When I got to episode 4 and talked with you guys, I was up there expecting it to be like the next big thing. And then episode 5 was cool. There were some good scenes. There was like some good fighting and stuff. I didn't like that training montage. It's like a couple of hours and like you learn how to throw a shield like Captain America, and I was a bit like, well, this is kind of easy. But in the end of the day, this episode for me just killed it, because like when we're watching a TV show like this, for me, you have to work as a whole, and that's why WandaVision in the beginning, I when I did the rating of the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, it was probably the first time that I just put question marks, because I didn't think I could be fair rating it, because I had no idea what it was. So in the end of the show with WandaVision, and to answer to Nick, what doesn't piss me off with so much of what WandaVision kind of set up is that it is a lot more confined. We probably gonna get all the answers on Doctor Strange 2. What I feel with this episode is we're gonna get answers Captain America 4, we're going to get answers in Armor Wars, we're going to get answers in... It's going to be like, you're going to have to watch 5 different movies to get answers to this show. And that's what's like pissing me off, is that it's not like WandaVision, that it's like, watch Doctor Strange 2, and you probably get everything. Here,
and
I kind of have a feeling that I'm going to have to watch like 7 shows, and I'm probably not even going to get the answers after that.
Well, and you
annoys me.
You would hope that they would, like, if that's what they're going to do, where they're going to launch into all these different projects that are going to give you the answers, that they would go out on a high note that gets you excited for them.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't think they did that at all.
No,
and
they didn't.
Like, I'm trying to think of like what answers we're waiting for, and of course, there's a few obvious ones. I'm sure other ones buried in there. I don't care about any of them, to be honest.
Exactly. And like Zemo, I was so excited for that character. That character was like, in the first episodes, really building up. I was hoping he would turn out to be the big bad guy, pulling the strings and stuff. And then all over a sudden, they take him away. And like, oh, we're going to put him in this prison. And then we get a little shot in the end of him miserable, like inside, like it was
But
just
was
sad.
he? But
And
was he?
what that kind of reeks to me of is, or reeks of to me, I should say, is that they pulled in all these characters to try to give the overall story a boost where they didn't have much to. I think they tried doing too much
Yeah,
in these 6
exactly.
episodes. And
Exactly.
do I like Zemo? Yes. Did they use him well? I don't think so. Goes back to the Wakandans coming in. Goes back to Sharon Carter. I just think that they couldn't justify doing just a series on Bucky and Sam, so they had to broaden it a little bit. And I don't know that they knocked it out of the park on that one.
I will say, in terms of like, you know, having to, I agree with you, Yolo, and the fact that we're gonna have to watch a bunch of stuff just to get answers. The thing that really bothers me about that is the fact that Phase 4 is already mapped out. There's no room for anything else involving these characters. Like, we'll be lucky if we get anything in 5 years with these characters, which is really sad. And I think that that's the one thing that really drives me nuts about Marvel is it's like, I don't think Marvel truly understands. Marvel is very clickbaity in the way that they like present their shows or even their movies, where it's just like, look at how awesome this is. You have to watch this because if you don't, you're out of the loop. And whereas like Kevin Feige has kind of said, and I think we all kind of forget about this, and I forgot about it with WandaVision. Kevin Feige said that like you don't have to watch these series; they just help grow the characters. So like I guess like when it comes to this show, I feel like you have to watch it because if you go into Captain America 4, whenever that comes out, if you don't watch this show, you're like, wait, what? Sam's Captain America now? Who I don't remember who Sharon Carter is. Like,
but Nick, not really though, right? Only because with the Sam piece, because I was totally with you on this until now that I was just thinking about. You know, the last that we saw Sam in the movies, he was receiving the shield, right? Yeah. So the turmoil didn't start until episode 1, and then of course, like within 6 hours, we were able to rectify all that. 6 hours is loose; it's probably more like 3.5 when you count the credits. But so I don't know that you really need to watch that, and I'm sure that they'll reintroduce what's her name, Sharon Carter, and all that. We already know that they were going to introduce Val in Black Widow, so we're getting that. But
they're doing these short things on Disney Plus that kind of resumes the story of, I don't know what you call it, Legends or something. So they're doing this like little short thing. The recaps that you go there and you watch that, and it's like 20 minutes and it recaps the story of whole character. So you probably don't need to watch it. But that's what my problem is. Like, and I have a really low memory gap. Like I can remember things. Okay, and the thing is, when I'm like watching movies now, like Cheng Xing, like that we're gonna get the Mandarin. I don't know how many years after like Iron Man 2, and they like gonna do Iron Man 3, and they're like, oh, we're gonna change that twist. And I'm thinking, what twist? That was like 10 years ago, or like just come on. Like I think they're pushing it a little bit too far now. Because it's like Nick said, we're probably going to get the answers of this movie in 4 or 5 years. Okay?
It's so funny to me that Marvel is so responsive to fans. They're like, okay, this is going well. Let's do Captain America 4. Okay, this is going well. Let's do this. And DC and Warner Brothers are like, you want that? Fuck you. Like we're giving you
but I think
whatever.
honestly,
they already I guarantee you they already knew that they were going to do it. They were just waiting for the show to be over. You know?
Yeah, we're waiting for the hype train to roll in.
Right. Sure, I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I think they created this show probably it's like an advertisement for Captain America 4. I think they created
just as WandaVision was an advertisement for the new fucking Doctor Strange. Yeah. So can I just say this, because it seems like we are sort of debating the game planning that happens with Feige and the rest of the executives at Marvel. Like it seems like everything's so mapped out, but I don't know where we're going right now. Like I've watched 2 series and all I feel like I got was sort of like, okay, cool. Like I got like a press pass. So I have like a little information about like the new movie that's coming because I watched the WandaVision show and I watched the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like I feel maybe more privy to like what's coming. Like I feel like I got extended trailers, whereas fans who don't watch the trailers like I used to be, like maybe they don't know quite as much, but like I feel like I only really got like a trailer's worth of knowledge, a trailer's worth of investment into Phase 4, which I don't think is like a strong feeling that they probably wouldn't want me to have this reaction. You know, Phase 4 is here. We just got over COVID. Marvel's dropping new stuff, and that's how I feel. Like, I just can't imagine they would want that. So, like, do you guys? I'm curious. Do you guys think there is a direction? I mean, there obviously is, but you guys think they're doing a good job conveying it? Rather, is my question.
The direction is to just keep doing what they're doing creatively, or at least in their eyes creatively, and just the fact that they can literally put out whatever they want and make money. Like, all the focus is on right now is the franchiseification of it. Like, I've literally even seen a few comments online suggesting that, like, even if Feige ever got sick of it, Marvel and Disney would literally just pick somebody else to fill the void. Somebody else would easily fill that seat and just continue just chucking stuff out, because, like, that's all the rage now. Like, I was
gonna say, like, I was actually gonna pose the question, like, I wonder if Feige is actually bored, and because the thing is, it's like he's done it.
To feel like they have his same kind of energy as the previous movies did.
Yeah, but that's why I'm wondering, because he knows the formula. They have a certain formula that goes into each of these projects and things that they do, and not only that, but like he's working on a Star Wars movie with Kathleen Kennedy. I think if I'm Kevin Feige. Like, you've done it all. You make a ton of money. You're going down in the books as one of the greatest, if not the greatest producers of all time, because of what you've been able to do with the MCU, and taking a character like Iron Man, who a lot of people didn't know if you didn't read the comics, and making that character the standalone character in a franchise that was starting. And he did so many things that were just incredible, where I just think to myself, like, maybe he's just like, maybe he's bored. Maybe he's just like, okay, Disney expects this and this and this. We got to tell these stories. Let's just continue putting that formula in, and I'll just keep getting a check. And I'm not saying that that's what Feige does, because he's passionate, but I think if I'm Kevin Feige, like, I'm looking at the next thing I can do creatively outside of Marvel.
I think we're in a rebuild. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the original stories have been wrapped up. Of course, Thor is continuing on in whatever fashion that's going to be with Love and Thunder. We have Guardians of the Galaxy, and the Hulk's out there somewhere doing something, and we have some of those characters. But in terms of what we're seeing now is they're trying to hype up some of these more minor characters that were there for a lot of the previous 3 phases, and figure out how they're going to try to make lightning strike twice. I think they did a great job in pulling together the team, so to speak, Avengers and all of that, in order to make a coherent 23 film, saga. But now they either have to capitalize on the characters they've already introduced and boost them up to main character status, which I don't think is easy with a lot of these characters, especially based on some of the comments that we're making tonight. And then they also have to introduce some new characters. So it's kind of back to like phase 1, where we're getting the early Shang-Chi. We're going to get Eternals. We're going to start learning more about these characters in and out. Of course, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is expected to blow open everything. But until we get there, we're in limbo right now. And that's kind of where I worry, is that if they try to follow the same type of recipe for success that they had with the first 23 films, I don't know that that's going to be a positive in the end for Marvel, because people are going to be tired of it. It's been seen before, and you can't just plug in some of these minor characters, the Sharon Carters of the world, and throw in Julia Louis-Dreyfus at the end of things. While I love her and I'm excited to see where she goes, I still am skeptical about that, because if they're going to build up this like them versus us thing with Nick Fury versus Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character with the Thunderbolts or whatever it is, I'm worried about where that's going, because it seems pretty pedestrian based on what they've done before.
Yeah, I'm still kind of excited about the idea of the Thunderbolts personally, but that's only because, like, if there's one thing that kind of the Suicide Squad, that effect that side of the superhero spectrum has on me, it's that anti-heroes are still in. I still very much enjoyed Birds of Prey, so it looks like I've still got that kind of like that ability to look forward to that type of superhero sensibilities. But other than that, I totally agree with you on everything. It really is just a matter of tone-wise will reflect just the ultimate fact that they can continue to really just milk this thing for what it's worth overall, which is, I mean, I can't say something that we didn't all see coming overall. I think that's safe to say. But
the thing is, this is where now I'm gonna disagree with everyone, because I think this phase 4.
No, we were having such a nice evening.
I know, but I just can't. Like, I think phase 4 is gonna be the best phase that Marvel is gonna have, and the reason for that is like what I said on the other show. this moment in time, Marvel doesn't need to like care a shit if they convince you what they're going to do with the movie, because no matter what, no matter how much we are complaining here, if Marvel releases a secret movie tomorrow, we all will be watching it in the cinema. We all will, like, none of us will not watch it. So at the moment now, they can really take the risk and do whatever they want. And the thing is that Joe was saying, if they don't change their tune, they're going to be like, like, this is what people has been saying like 10 movies ago, and they still like doing, like, when was the last bad movie of Marvel? That's the thing.
But the thing there, Yolo, is that the first 23 movies had a general thread, and it was all
but
about
this one also has. This one also has.
Not yet. No, we don't know what that threat is yet. They're throwing shit against the wall. I'm sure they have a plan for that shit, but we don't know it yet.
But you didn't know what was the, like, when you what, like you said, we started a new phase, not a new phase. We started a rebuild, like you said. I completely agree there. So if we go and look, we didn't even add the first movie. Okay, we're getting TV shows. We like Black Widow is the first movie. We didn't even add the first one. So if we go back to the beginning, when we had Iron Man 1, what did we know what was going to happen? Nothing. Like, we had no clue. And the thing here is,
I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah, so the thing here is, like, if you are a comic book fan, you are seeing exactly where they are. And every show they like setting up, you're seeing exactly where they're going. So like with Hawkeye, you know that they're setting up the Young Avengers, okay? That's something that, like, with this show, you know that they set up Thunderbirds. You know that, like, with WandaVision, you know that they're setting up, like, it can be Mephisto in the end, because, like, the comic books, and that's why people were assuming that it was going to show in the show. But on the other thing, we need to think about something. Like, Marvel, like, they're not going to spend their best stories, their best villains, their better twists on a Disney Plus that everyone is already paying. They're not going to cancel. They're going to keep that on the cinema, because that's where they need to convince people to go. And that's the thing. Like you said, they it's like they're using the side characters, and they're still creating some of the most watched shows on TV.
But I worry
I
worry that leads to oversaturation.
Joe,
and that's what ultimately gets me a little concerned.
Yes, exactly. It's like Kevin Feige got super into Gary Vee like halfway through phase 2 and was like, okay, so here's the thing. We need to make our content work smarter, not harder. And so now we're here. Because honestly, it's corporatism, I think, is at the end of the day why these shows feel so diluted. It sucks too, because if anything, like, if you really want to look at it, like the way I see it, it's such a disservice to what they're trying to say socially, honestly, by giving them such like weak foundational story beats to stand on, but also to these actors who are crushing it. These, like, the performances are great in these two shows, man. But I just don't think that that's going to live on, because of how the conversation around it, not just here, but everywhere, really, like, it seems to be the general consensus is, okay, it was cool in the moment, but, like, I'm not feeling too good about it now that it's over.
I don't want to twist the knife here on Joe, but this is this is the difference why we got 23 Marvel movies, TV shows, and the Snyderverse died with like nothing.
There's a lot of other reasons why that happens, so I don't know if that's a good comparison.
No, there's a lot of other reasons, but in the end of the day, we still need to realize and always have this argument. We are people that are used to watching movies. We are people that are used to analyzing movies. Like, the majority of people that made the $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion in the cinema, this is what they want. They want to see the new characters. They want to have fun, and they are not bored.
That is totally fine with me. That's totally fine with me. I think what you're discounting in your argument is that I'm saying I'm not interested right now. That's the point I'm making. Is that they might be on a path, and I know they have a plan. They're smart as shit. They definitely have a plan. Right now, I don't see parts of that plan that interest me.
I guess I kind of set that up by bringing the corporatism into it. But I mean, obviously, we're the minority here. People are eating this thing up. Disney Plus subscribers have never been higher. They passed 100 million before they estimated they would by like years. So I mean, my framing was poor there for sure. Bad journalism student for sure. But I'm just saying, like, just kind of because I'm so frustrated with it. So yeah, I guess I set that up badly. But YOLO, man, take it away. I feel like you had more to say there.
No, like I just keep on saying this, and it's like in the end of the day, I grew up with the comics. I love seeing all these characters coming to life. So if I need to make a choice that it is, I'm gonna get these characters, but at the same time they kind of gonna dumb it up a little bit because that's what the majority of people will be interested in watching. I'm gonna take it because if they start like doing the shows for us, I'm gonna be very honest. I think these shows are not gonna last long because the majority of people are not getting bored. And this is what I was saying. We keep on saying this. Oh, people are bored. People are bored. People are bored. Look, they're not. You can say that about Transformers.
I don't think a lot of us said that we were bored, or that people are bored. I think we said that we specifically are bored, and with some of the stuff going on. And just real quick to bring back the Snyderverse, because you introduced it. You're talking about how you love the comics and that's why you're willing to give this the time. That's how a DC fan feels about DC stuff. So there is a point of view here that impacts the argument, not just the business side of things and what they're ultimately going to end up putting.
No, but look, I'm a fan of DC. I'm not that guy that's like, oh, I'm like Marvel, DC sucks. No, I like both. Look, I like anything that's like comic books because I grew up with it. I like one of my favorite movies is The Crow. That is like a really like underground comic book. The thing I say is sometimes we forget that like people that like we talked about the Snyder cut, and it was amazing and I really enjoyed it more than, but maybe making a 4-hour movie wasn't like the best move, because unless it's us, people that really like movies, like people look at the time and they go like 4 hours, shit, I'm not watching that. And that kind of hurts in the end of the day. That is,
but it wasn't intended to launch a phase 4 or a phase of anything. It was a dump of a film on a streaming.
But what I mean, maybe if they did a show out of it, the numbers would be better, and it would be better to sell it like to make the Snyderverse a thing again, because the numbers, in the end of the day, that's what they look. And if you saw the HBO like Warner Brothers presentation to the investors, that's all they talk about. They don't say, oh, this movie was really good. No, there was this number of people watching, this made new subscribers, this like, and that's the thing, in the end of the day, is a number game. And I think Marvel kind of is mixing it up and playing that, and they're doing a great job in that, because like you said before, 100 million subscribers 3 years before the timeline that they did. It's because people are really into it. And I just think they dropped the ball here because they set up too much and they really ruined the show for me. But in terms of the future, look, these guys, they're going to have a serial killer board with lines and dots on a room somewhere. And they have the next 10 years of movies like mapped up that you can bet whatever you want.
I can totally see that.
It's so true.
I don't want to get into the Snyderverse stuff because that's not why we're here. And not only that, but like I would just
like
say,
a month ago.
Yeah, I will just say to anybody, and I've said this to everybody. Look, okay, you were never promised anything outside of a dump on HBO Max. So just enjoy what you have, because granted, they would have brought it back if they made money on those movies. The reality is nobody went and saw those movies. Nobody saw those movies. So it's like you could sit there and be in.
So that's actually a bad argument, though, because they did make $800 million on one of them, just didn't cross $1 billion with the first two. So that gets into a whole other thing, though, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. That's a whole different thing. But like, I don't really kind of care about that. Like that's kind of over and done with, and just it's like move on. Anyway, when it comes to the Marvel, I completely agree with your point, because you did say that they make it for the masses of people. They make it for the casual fan, and that is true. They do that. And that's why it's so frustrating, because the casual fan, they don't get comic book fatigue like, I do, or like other people do. And that's why I think that, like how we said when we started off, like me saying, look, I'm happy that it's over because I can move on and watch Star Wars content, watch like whatever's on Netflix. Like there's a lot that I want to watch. And the reality is I know that there's going to be people that, in this show, it's going to be like the greatest thing ever for them. And same thing with WandaVision. And that's amazing. That's great. And that's really cool. But I feel like my only my only thing with Marvel, and this has been my biggest complaint about them, it's not their fault, but they put themselves into a corner because with Endgame and with Infinity War, it's like I feel like people's expectations are through the roof now, where to me it's like it should be do something different with your content, make something new. That's the way to kind of rebuild and bring it back to life. I don't feel like, although I love this show, I don't feel like it was anything too different. However, I'm looking at Shang-Chi. I'm looking at Eternals. These properties, these things could be very, very different, especially when you have people like Chloe Zhao, who's directing the Eternals, which she's amazing. She's incredible. She's going to win the Oscar this weekend, guaranteed, and she deserves it. But the thing is it's like my only fear is because of how much of a stronghold Kevin Feige and the people at the top of Marvel have on the franchise. My only fear is that they are going to be scared of change. And I get it. I understand why. And again, it's still going to sell. People are still going to go and see it. Obviously, it's still going to make millions of dollars, like billions of dollars probably. But that's been my only concern, is that there is no greater mountain that they can climb because they've already climbed it. If they would have just walked away after Endgame, which would have never happened, but if they would have just walked away from Endgame, I feel like it would have just made life easier, I think. And there would be less, I don't know, at least ended the arc with the characters that we had over the 23 films and then started like kind of rebranded and did everything kind of differently, bringing in new characters and stuff. I feel like we wouldn't be so critical of the role that they're playing now and where they're trying to go with phase 4, because I don't really know. Like, I know that you say that you think this is going to be their best phase ever, and that's awesome. I don't think so. I think phase 3 to me was the pinnacle. Phase 4 is kind of that rebuild, but I'm looking at like phase 5, phase 6. Those are going to be kind of like those new mountains that they have to climb with whatever they're going to introduce.
Oh yeah, no, I mean phase 4 is going to be the best one. I'm like with the 3 that we already had before, because the thing is, we're going to get that excitement again because we're going to get new characters. And I think that's the coolest thing, at least for me. The coolest thing is when we see a new character and how they gonna like bring it from the comic books. So things like Moon Knight, I'm really excited about.
Yeah,
it.
me too.
Like there's a couple of things there that I'm really, really excited. Blade. So I don't know. Like there's a lot of stuff there that I'm curious to see what's gonna be their take. But like at the same time, and I'm going to bring this movie again because it's my example for every time someone says, oh, I want something new, like Ad Astra, that I think it's one of the most original movies made in the last years. And people complain, oh, I get nothing. It's only sequels and Marvel movies and whatever. They do a really like original movie. Made no money. Okay, made no money. And that's the thing. Like Marvel, what they're going to do, it's kind of a mix. They're going to bring stuff that they know it's a guaranteed hit, like Thor, whatever in Thunder, Love and Thunder, that they know it's going to make money. Guardians of the Galaxy, they know it's going to make money. And then they're going to put things in the middle that they're going to test out, like the Eternals and stuff like that. Because if they fail with an Eternals, but you have a Thor and you have a Guardians on each side, you kind of forget that fail. But if you have Eternals, Shang-Chi, like a bunch of new movies, and you have 2 or 3 in a row that fail, oh my God, everyone's going to be playing the horn that Marvel is dead. They dropped the ball. They're never going to come back. So what they're going to do is like they're going to have to balance it. It's a game in the end of the day. So they're going to have to do that and balance it with all this stuff. And I think in the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's our fault too, because we complain we want new things, but if we don't see anything we recognize, we like, I don't know about this. I remember look, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, Jesus, the first trailer and like not before, before the first. It's my favorite. It's my favorite Marvel movie. But before it came out, everyone was complaining about it. Oh, what are they gonna do with this? Oh, a raccoon, and so it's hard to be them. They are on top of their game. They have everyone looking, and it becomes a lot harder because you have expectations.
Yeah.
I agree because, LeBron James isn't LeBron James from sitting on the couch eating potato chips. He works hard. I get
Yeah,
that. But I do think you kind of open yourself up to like some sort of scrutiny when you're at that level.
exactly.
And so I don't watch
Mhm.
basketball. He's just like the only number one athlete that came to my mind. Anyways, but my point is they have big shoes to fill, especially after
Yeah,
Endgame. And I do kind of agree with some of your sentiment there, YOLO. Whereas maybe if we took some time off and did a soft reboot or something, it wouldn't always be like, well, this was great. I really enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but like, how good was the Winter Soldier movie? Or WandaVision was awesome, but like, I don't know, Age of Ultron was like, you can always compare it to something, and I think that's a problem. I think it kind of hurts these side characters as we start to make them main characters, and I think it hurts these new sort of origin stories we're going to get as we compare them to some of the legendary origin stories that we've had, like Thor and Iron Man, and it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be tough. I think it's sort of a patient game they have to play. I think they realize that. I just think that sometimes you make mistakes, and I feel like the launch of Phase 4 was a big mistake so far. I just don't think the rollout plan was sound. I personally think that the way I would have perceived these two shows would have been so different had we had, maybe the order was shaken up a bit. Maybe we just went cold turkey in with something new we've never seen before. Drop Shang-Chi out the gates, or give us, Eternals out the gates. Like, look, we can play the whole how do we doctor this game all night, but I'm just saying that the fact that it's in the conversation,
Mhm.
which isn't where I thought we'd be at, having seen two shows now into Phase 4. Just think it's an interesting sort of sentiment to bring up.
I just
Yeah.
think they need stakes. They need stakes. And that's been my biggest problem. They are the fake death universe. Anybody who says otherwise is completely. That's why I say Iron Man. Is he dead? No. He'll come back. He'll come back with the right amount of money. Chris Evans will come back to play Captain, some type of role. I don't know if it's going to be older Captain America. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but they're going to bring him back. Loki has died how many times? How many times? And now he's getting his own show. Look, I love those characters. I'm not saying that like I'd be opposed to them coming back. My problem is you need to have stakes. And I feel like Marvel is afraid to do that. And it shows with John Walker in particular, because I don't think they want to make him a villain. They want to make him a villain that people like, just like they did with Loki. The exact same thing. I feel like, especially over like a full arc, because Thanos was like a 2-movie arc, basically.
Ultimately, it's oversaturation of the market is what it comes down to overall. It is simple oversaturation of the market, and ultimately you see Steven Spielberg's prophecy about Marvel following the train of Westerns just coming true overall, wherein that they have so overflooded the marketplace that even kind of the enjoyability of other smaller content has become difficult now, just because it's so difficult to keep track of and like compare at a relative base, when you still have also the Twitter mob supporting like this franchise's every single move, and that makes it difficult overall to enjoy this art. So as much as I have enjoyed the discussions of positives and negatives, I'm sure we could go on all night on those. I personally just know, based off of what I've seen so far, that this could indeed go all night. So we're gonna go on to MVPs real quick. The last MVP for a while, as will be revealed by myself and Chris at the end of the show, and then we'll continue most likely this discussion and what this bodes for the future of the MCU and how it connects to the greater overall comic book universe. But so, starting with Chris, who is your MVP of this episode and ultimately of this entire series?
Yeah. So I'm really glad that you added the ultimately of the entire series, because my MVP this week is because they became my MVP of the entire series. I've been tooting the Anthony Mackie horn all season long, but I haven't been that kind to Bucky because, like I said, he never truly impressed me. And something about his bond with Anthony Mackie's Falcon and the way that these two characters formed a chemistry, kind of he had a little bit of the Joel Kinnaman thing for me, where it's like, all right, he gets great parts all the time, but like, is he worthy of being in these properties with all these people? I wasn't sure. You guys can, yell at me in the comments all you want for that, but that's honestly how I felt. So I got to give it to Sebastian Stan's, Winter Soldier, because he really won me over, man. Like, I think I needed to get to know him, especially if the future of the MCU is going to hedge on him a little more than it has in the past. I'm glad that I got this time with him. I'm looking forward to seeing more of him now, because I know where he's coming from. I see his point of view. I thought they did a really, really good job with the whole book thing. And we did get cheated with that scene where he goes and sees the guy's father. But overall, I thought they handled it well. taking us behind the hood of what was going on up there, because it wasn't an easy life, and now I understand that. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Winter Soldier for my MVP.
All right, Joe, your MVP of this episode and ultimately of this series.
I think the whole series really hinged on whether or not they were able to make the audience really buy into what they were doing with Sam and exploring his frustrations and challenges, not only internally but societally, with being the Black Captain America. I was worried that they were going to tee that up and not serve on it, or not deliver on it, I should say. And I really think they did that well. And I think that road or relied on wouldn't have happened if Anthony Mackie wasn't as strong. So I do think that he was the best in this episode, and I do think that he was the MVP of the series. A close second for me, this is funny, I don't know if I would say MVP, but an honorable mention of someone that I really did enjoy, at least, was Carly Morgenthau. I do like what they were doing with that. They kind of humanized the struggles of someone that was going up against some of the characters that we've known for quite a while. I think she was the first one in a long time that is someone that doesn't have like powers or money or whatever. And that was a really interesting direction for Marvel to take, and arguably the first time they've done that. So I'd like to see more of that in the future.
All right, absolutely. Nick, your MVP of this episode and ultimately of this series.
It's obviously Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character. I mean, come on, guys.
Agent Carter.
No, for me, I said Sam last week, and it's so hard because Sam and Bucky are both amazing. I'm gonna go Bucky this week though, and the reason for it is because unlike Sam, who I feel like has gotten more screen time in the MCU, and he's kind of been a little bit better flushed out even before the series. I love what they did with Bucky because it's something that they didn't do before. And I love the Winter Soldier. It's like one of my favorite comic books. And what's really cool is I wish that they would, go to the Winter Soldier and Black Widow, kind of teaming up and stuff, but that's not going to happen at this point in time. Who knows? But I love Sebastian Stan. I think that the guy is, not only does he look like Mark Hamill, but I also think he has a better presence on screen than Mark Hamill, which is really rough for me to say because I'm a big Star Wars guy. But I don't know. I think that his character goes from being overshadowed to now being in the spotlight, and I think that they did a really good job. I think he did a great service. It showed the struggles that he has. It showed his personality through and through, and the fact that the one thing I said last week, and I still chime in on this, and it's still like the thing I love about the show the most, is the fact that they brought together two characters with two different backgrounds who were the sidekicks essentially to Steve Rogers. And now, both of them are out in the spotlight, and it's really cool to see their chemistry and their relationship grow. And even like the small subtle things, like the fact that he gave his notebook to the therapist, like things like that I really enjoyed. And Bucky to me is the MVP of the show, of this episode, and ultimately the show is both him and Sam, but I'll just go with him.
All right, Yolo, your MVP of this episode.
Okay, just before going into the MVP, I just need to say something to Nick, because he said before Marvel is the universe of the fake deaths, and that's hilarious coming from a Star Wars fan. That Darth Maul
it is.
Darth Maul gets cut
Not
in half and he still survives and comes back.
I mean, not as bad though. Not as bad. I would say Marvel's worse. But
I just need to say that
the only one that they actually did that with.
No, everyone that dies comes back as a ghost, a Force ghost. So like, no one dies there. No one dies there. Alive. Yeah, okay. Anyway, no one dies in the Star Wars universe. I'm gonna have to go with Sam, but I also felt that not the MVP for me is Sam easily. But I also think they did something really cool in this show until the last episode, that was to show the importance and how special Captain America was. Not like just Steve, but the person that needs to hold that shield. And I think they did a great, and I think the spirit of Captain America is like the MVP for me also in this show, because they really showed that it's not about having the superpowers. It's not about it's more about the moral values And I think then with Sam, that mix that they did with Sam, and if I had to say, like before I said nothing good is there, I think if you pointed a gun and I needed to pick something from the last episode, it would probably be the speech that Sam did that was pretty powerful. And I think all that together makes Sam the MVP. But the spirit of Captain America, I think they did a great job here that you probably never really got it from all the other movies before. It was like, he kind of get us distracted that he was like, he had this syrup that, like this thing that gave him powers, and you never realized that it was more about the values and what he defended. And I think you saw that in Endgame when he faces the whole army of Thanos. But I think they did a great job here showing that anyone that has those values probably could pick up the shields. And I think that was one of my favorite things in the whole show.
All right. And lastly, my MVP is probably something that I feel like sums up all of our MVPs in one. That's the casting directors, because the casting directors continue to prove that they are the true superstars when it comes to portraying our favorite comic book characters on screen. Because since day one with Downey Jr., they have been casting nothing but aces. They've gotten literally like no bad miscastings as far as that goes, and it continues to show here overall, because despite my kind of initial thoughts on how the overall trajectory of the show went, I still thought that the casting was the absolute best part, with the exception of Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter. She like kind of devolved back into soap opera territory. I enjoyed every single, and Carly, I enjoyed every single performance here. I thought Carly's was a little one note. And so, what's it called? At the risk of kind of droning on for too long, however, let's move into future of the MCU and how it kind of connects to the greater overall comics that inspired it. So, obviously, we have our first look at U.S. Agent overall. Further hints at the Thunderbolts, obviously, with Zemo. You have Sam and Bucky, obviously, repairing the boat and also showing the statue dedicated to Isaiah Bradley. What's it called? And we also know that his grandson, Elijah Bradley, eventually becomes a member of the Young Avengers. We will see how that turns out, however long down the road that takes overall. But, guys, what did you think? And, of course, the secret person that Sharon called on her phone as she was leaving in the post-credit scene. So, guys, what do you make of all of that? Do you think it's going to amount to anything? And as hard as it may be, try not to bring in any cross-comment Marvel DC things as far as like how they compare to one another.
I think obviously it's all going to lead somewhere. Again, I think my frustration was just with the pace and how we're using the shows to get there. But I want to throw something else in the hat too before everyone starts to chime in. When I think they submitted for Golden Globes and Emmys, Disney put for WandaVision strictly a limited series. But with Falcon and Winter Soldier, rather, they submitted it as season 1. Is there something there? That's a fact. And I just want to get your guys' take on that as well. So take it away. Whoever wants to jump in.
I think I wanted to say this because I put this in my video. I think that this is the only season of Falcon and Winter Soldier, but that's because I think they're going to change the name. Obviously the show Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
We already know we're getting Captain America 4.
But it's not, I don't think it's going to be even, I don't even think he's going to be Winter Soldier by the time, if there's a season 2 or like a new series. I think he's going to be White Wolf at that time. Like, I think that's the next step for Bucky to take. I just wanted to kind of say that. I think that there's going to be more seasons with these characters. It's just not going to be named Falcon and Winter Soldier. But I guess for probably specificity or whatever for the Golden Globes and the Emmys, you have to kind of label it that way. Maybe they also just don't want to. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think also the story of WandaVision, it would just be completely ridiculous to do a second season, because it is like that story finished there. They have a lot of other stories to tell, so there's no point trying to find a way to create a second season there. This one, if they want to continue, they can. There's room to go with it. But I agree with Nick. I don't think there's going to be a second season of this, because like they're going to evolve into other things. And they also know, and Netflix kind of has been showing us that. Like the first seasons, people are more excited about it. People want to see what it is about it. Then when you do 2-3 seasons, people start losing the interest, unless it's like a one in a million hit. So I think they have a lot of other things, and like just looking at the things they have now, like She-Hulk, Moon Knight, What If, like all those, they have so much to work with. There's not really a logical reason to do this. So I don't think there's going to be a second season for this.
I kind of find it interesting how after the ratings of both of these shows go, that they determine that kind of Falcon and Winter Soldier is the property. Yes, that's going to be like the first big lead into the movie, right? Because we've obviously been hinting that the TV shows, even though they're kind of like, sure, you may be able to watch them on your own, they still do have characters that will eventually end up tying into the movie. So the fact that they're actually making this their first big declaration as far as like, okay, this character will next make the jump into movies, and this is going to be our first example of kind of jumping between the mediums as far as tying them together and kind of making them more disposable overall. Any thoughts as to that?
Isn't Wanda the first one that did that though?
Yeah,
because she's
I
going
think
right
so.
into
True. Yeah, but I'm talking like kind of going from TV directly to movies, you know? Like, because the whole thing is that, so WandaVision obviously is popping back up in Doctor Strange, but then you also could have characters that like form exclusively on TV, like the Miss Marvel character that then obviously pop up in the movies overall. It's like, this is like the first kind of major showing of that, and I think it's kind of an element that we obviously need to keep an eye on, unfortunately, as these continue to go out for like the rest of time, most likely.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see when we get movies from right after
Right.
these to see what
That's
kind
the
of
big determiner at this point, is when we
to
get
see
movies.
what carries over and what doesn't.
Yes.
I think that there's a lot at play here. We're definitely getting that Armored series or whatever, Don Cheadle. We're getting Secret Invasion. There's a lot of things that this could then connect to. So in terms of a season 2, I really am not sure where they would go with it. I do think there'll be some type of season 2. What that looks like, who knows? Especially with the news of Captain America 4, that came out of left field to me and kind of completely threw out any ideas that I had for what a second season could look like, because they're obviously going to explore some of the threads there as well. Whenever that comes, maybe it's way down the road or whatever. But
Right.
like we've said, they definitely have a plan. What makes it difficult for me to predict, not like anyone can really predict where they're totally going, but we do have the introduction of the Fantastic Four at some point in the next 5-6 years. We have the introduction of mutants at some point. There's a lot at play. It seems like Hydra is rearing its head again.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different directions that they can go. I think what Marvel does really well is ties everything together ultimately. And that's what I'm most interested to see when we get those answers in 2033.
And the sad
So
fact is that is
true.
probably going to be true. That is probably going to be true overall.
Yeah, but there's
Yeah,
a lot
to
of
me-
connections here. There's a lot of connections here that they're doing, and like there's connections that we don't even know they're gonna happen. Like I think, for example, the Eternals are gonna link with Atlantis, and they're gonna show Namor, and then Namor is gonna be linked to Black Panther too. Because like if you read the comic books, the reason Atlantis is like in the bottom of the sea is connected with Eternals. So there's a lot of stuff there. If you read the comic books, that it's not surprising that some movies are going to come out. It's not random. It's not like they just pick a book randomly. Let's try this one. So if they're doing the Eternals, it's because they're going to connect it with something. You're probably going to see a young Thanos, because that's the way they're going to bring him back, and then he's going to connect with other things. So there's a lot there, and they know exactly what they're doing.
I think you're spot on with that, and I think we all are saying that they definitely know what they're doing. But the one thing that's been consistent with Marvel is when you think you know what's going on with them and how they're going to do it, they take the comic books and they throw them into a blender. And you get the remnants, you get the connections down the road in weird ways, but it's going to take us a little while to get there.
I will say for that though, because I'm a big movie buff, and I will say that because I know people have the question. People always say like, "Oh, I don't like it because it doesn't follow the original source material." There's some things that don't translate.
I completely agree.
You know what I mean? So it's like I'm interested. Like Namor, he's a cool character, and I really like that. I think one thing that I will give Marvel credit for that they have been able to do so exceptionally well compared to, and I know I don't want to get into a rabbit hole of DC, but compared to like DC, another comic book property, another comic book character, is that they're able to take their side characters and make their side characters so lovable to the effect of like Batman or Superman, right? Because like if you look at Marvel, like say that the MCU didn't exist, really the only characters people would really know is Spider-Man, realistically. Like
Yeah.
Spider-Man, the Spider-Man villains, some of them you'd probably know. Maybe you would know Captain America, but Captain Marvel, no way. Iron Man, no way. Hulk, yeah, you would know him, but
I think that's
But
the part
that's
of
the
the
charm of
genius.
Yeah,
That-
you would know
yeah,
Hulk
that's the
from
charm
Tokyo
of it.
Drift.
Yeah,
No,
right.
I think that's
Right?
the part. I think that's part of the genius of things,
Yeah,
because
exactly,
when
it is.
you're doing a character that everyone loves, everyone fucking has an opinion on it.
Yep.
Everyone is like, oh, when you
Big
do a
Jag,
character
yeah.
when you do a character that no one knows,
Mhm.
people are not gonna say, oh, you know what, his suit wasn't like that. There was a yellow thing in the bottom. No, because no one knows. And
Yeah.
I think that's why Guardians is so good, because they
and then
could go crazy.
you also don't get the effect of like where we've seen so many Batman movies. We know exactly what his origin story is. And at this point in time, if you tell his origin story in a new movie, you're wasting screen time, okay? Because we know what it is. Whereas like these new characters, Black Panther, you get to see his origin story. I didn't know anything about Black Panther realistically, and I love that character now. It's like same thing with Falcon, same thing with the Winter Soldier. Like what they've been able to do, and this is why I have absolute faith in these smaller characters like Miss Marvel. I don't know anything about her. She-Hulk, I don't really know anything about her either. I'm excited to see what they're doing, and I have total faith that they're going to bring some type of origin story that we haven't seen before, and we can't compare it to anything else. It's not like Batman,
Exactly.
you know? It's great in that way.
So,
And
so
going
Nick, I
on
think,
that, Spider-Man, they didn't even do the origin story
Yeah,
because everyone knew. So yeah, exactly. Sorry.
and I thought that was a smart decision, honestly. But before we go down the rabbit hole of that, I see your points, Nick, and I think for people who are still fully invested, yes, I think that is a very realistic representation of the future. But you did say something earlier that you don't think comic book fatigue exists outside of the people like us who are critics and who are just by choice consuming this because we love it and we really want to push it, to challenge it, to bring the best out of it. At least that's why I do this, because I love comics and I want to see the creators take these characters I love on the page and make them the best. But I disagree with you in regards to the comic book fatigue being inside the film community. I think it is far spread and wide, and I just don't think that's the voice that gets the retweets on the internet. So I think really the future of the MVP to me, the future of the MCU to me seems to be very marred. Yeah. Seems to be very marred in debate. It's really going to be a lot of, I think, bickering between tweets, and I think it's there's going to be a lot of money made, but I just don't know if the reception is going to be as open arms received as the first three phases were.
Yeah.
So I think we're in for a bit more of a public discourse style path following the MCU than we've seen before. Which was already kind of big.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Like that's the problem, and it's the same thing with every fandom. That is the problem with fandom. It's like it's great that we have all our own opinion, and because that's the thing is like something that I like, particularly you guys don't like, and that's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
And it's vice versa. The problem is though is when we get to this whole fact of like, well, your opinion sucks. You suck as a person. I hate you for what you say. When it's like that drives me crazy because like I completely agree with you, Chris. That's the unfortunate thing. Like I could say I disliked one episode of the show, and someone who absolutely loves the show is just gonna cite me off as like a complete idiot, and I don't know you know what I mean. So
but guys, but this is what I mean. But this is us and the community that we in. Because I'm sorry, but majority of people go and watch like a movie in the cinema. They come out of it and they're like, where are we gonna go for dinner? They're not gonna be like, oh, did you saw that scene there? Look, the only people that have fatigue is people like us, that a trailer comes out and there's a guy doing frame by frame investigation of what, that guy that was on Spider-Man and he said, do a flip, is on Shang-Chi. So this means whatever. And there's look, the guy got a second job. Just leave him alone. He got a second job. He knows the casting director of both movies, and he got 2 jobs in 10 years. And now we like saying there must be a reason that guy is there. Look, that's only us, guys. Look, it's 2:30 in the morning, and I'm talking about Falcon Winter Soldier. My girlfriend is in bed. Do you think any other normal person is doing that? No, just us. So, like, that's the thing. The fatigue comes.
We've been broken. We've officially been broken. Marvel has broken us.
But that's the thing. The fatigue comes because we talk about these movies every day. Like, if you go and ask normal people, when is the Black Widow movie coming out? They're like gonna be like, I don't know, maybe in a
What
year
movie?
or two. Like, yeah, what movie?
What movie?
Yeah, like Eternals. Oh, Eternals is gonna come out. What? Like
they won't even know what that is.
Exactly. That's
I see that.
us.
Yeah.
I totally see that. Joe, do you have a differing opinion on that by chance? A hunch is sort of telling me maybe you might. I don't know.
One last differing opinion, and then we're doing star ratings.
I agree with everything that's been said.
Oh, look at that. Look who's not trying to stir up controversy
I broke
right
Joe's
now.
will.
Well, no, I
will
just
to argue.
I think that like one of the things that our community does really poorly is tries to speak for the people that aren't in the community, right? And so like, yeah, they can make a lot of money, but people going to see films, like Marvel films, people go for the intrigue. Or at this point, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that they're pumped about it or loving it. Same reason why the ratings for these two series are really solid. It's because people are watching them, but even amongst this group, it doesn't mean that we're all loving it. There's a lot of challenges there, and I think that that's what, to Chris's point, we're going to see moving forward is there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of people that are unsure about what's going to be coming down the road. And I think that, weaving in what Nick said, one of the challenges is we as cinephiles get defensive about the things that we really like. And I think that people, we kind of devolve into well, your opinion's stupid. And, I'm the true fan and stuff like that. And I think that we just need to be careful of that moving forward because we're seeing that we're about to go in totally different directions with Marvel. Regardless of what it is, it's going to be different than what we've seen in the past 23 movies. And there's going to be a lot of opinions there. We see it with what we're talking about with Falcon and Winter Soldier, with WandaVision. I think we're split on that. Some of us liked it, some of us loved it, some of us didn't love it, some of us liked it, some of us didn't like it. And that's going to continue to happen with a lot of the stuff because, spoiler, superhero films aren't going away in any way. Like whether that's
Ever.
DC, if that's Marvel, if that's Image Comics that are now starting to pop up, if that's, any of the others, we're going to get an Invincible live action movie down the road. That's coming.
We're getting Powerpuff Girls, like TV
Powerpuff
show with
TV show is coming.
That's how low we went,
baby. Hell yeah.
That's how low we went.
When did this turn into the greater existential conversation about superheroes and its effect on our culture overall? I love it. This is what the show needs to become from now on, is the greater existential of superheroes wreckage of our mental psyches overall. So with that being said, people, it has been a fun 6 weeks overall, breaking down, discussing this show, discussing every little facet, discussing Marvel's effect on us post the pandemic overall. So we're going to go around, give our overall star ratings of the show, and of course, tell the good people where they can find you. So starting with Joe, Mr. Guy at the Movies himself, give your star rating and where can the good people find you online?
Yeah, I think this is ultimately, for me, it's somewhere between a 3 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5. I'm probably going to rewatch the final episode again because it's one of those things where you hype yourself up for it. And sometimes you got to watch a Marvel film or anything like that to try to get all of the details. I'm excited to see where they go. I think that there's a lot of interesting nuggets there that could blossom into some really exciting things. But I am, as I said earlier, concerned about how it's all going to come together because there's a lot of different pieces and a lot of heavy lifting that even just announcing a Fantastic Four movie does, and even announcing, the acquisition of the X-Men via the Disney's moves that they made with Fox, however many years ago at this point, 2 years ago. There's a lot of stuff out there. So people are looking for that stuff. And what we saw with WandaVision is that expectation sometimes leads to disappointment. And I'm hopeful that we don't get into a place where we're being teased and not getting that payoff. But we'll see. So, but I'm really looking forward to Loki because regardless, Tom Hiddleston is just a blast in that role. So it should be fun. You can find me at guidetomovies.com for all of the movie content that you would like. A lot of trailers coming out recently as movies are getting release dates, which is really great. A lot of reviews popping up that I am releasing there and on Guide to Movies on Instagram. And we have a podcast, the Guide to Movies podcast with Joe and Sean. Every Wednesday morning it's released. Tuesday night we stream it. live on YouTube, and we are currently doing an Oscars poll that you can find over on the Guide to Movies page. There's about 25 people entered into it, so it's a lot of fun. We'll be watching this weekend and having a blast with that. We also recorded a very ridiculous Oscars-centric episode that released on Wednesday, so I highly recommend listening to that because we were very stupid during it, but there's a lot of great points made, a lot of great discussion. It was a lot of fun.
All right, excellent. And of course, you'll find me writing for GuideToMovies.com once Jupiter's Legacy comes out in about 2 weeks. That's going to be a lot of fun. Nick Talks Flicks overall.
Yeah.
Thanks once again for coming on, dude. It's been a pleasure having you on these 2
For real.
episodes of this series. So tell us your final star rating and where the good people can find you on the interwebs.
I'll give this episode a 4 out of 5. I feel like that's a really good rating for me. Over time, I used to give a lot of stuff 5 out of 5s, and then over time, once you like really dig into movies, you're like, no, no. But you can find me over at Nick Talks Flicks on YouTube, which is really fun. I actually have a lot of Oscar content going on as well. I'll have a predictions video up tomorrow on my channel, as well as a Mortal Kombat review that I was going to get out tonight, but I think I'll just wait till tomorrow, to be honest, because why not? And then I have a 24-hour movie marathon coming up. It was supposed to be, we were supposed to start filming it tomorrow, but we had to push it back a week. And that's going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be crazy. If you guys like 24-hour movie marathons, it's going to be really, really a blast. I do everything from Marvel, Star Wars, DC, horror. I'm a big horror guy. October is like my month. I do independent films. I basically cover every genre of film. I try to do the bigger stuff, but I tend to usually try to do a lot more smaller, contained indie stuff because that's what I'm mostly passionate about. Everything from reviews, rankings, and a lot of interesting, really cool videos like that I think are just very original and unique to the space. You can follow me on Twitter. It's Nick__Acosta. It's really weird. You can also check. I do have an Instagram as well, Nick Talks Flicks. This was a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's been a blast talking about this show, and I'm happy it's over because guess what, Luke? To answer your question, Bad Batch is next, baby.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And don't worry, this is not the last time you will see Nick Talks Flicks on our channels. Yolo, the great Unyolo of Yolo Movie Blogs, our president, our captain of tonight. What are your final thoughts and star rating on this episode and overall series, and where can the good people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, YOLO 2020. Don't forget that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, 2024 now.
Well,
So true.
Don't know. We'll see. But if it's up to episode 4, I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. After watching this last episode, I would have to go like 2.5 because I think they really, really ruin it for me. I think everything I loved until episode 4 really ruined. I don't know. I just can't see the show now that is over. The way they did it, I think it was a lot of missed opportunities. So I would give it a 2.5 just because there's still a lot of good stuff that was done. But then in the end, I just can't see it. I need to see it as a whole thing, kind of like a movie. And like I said about Mortal Kombat, those guys were really smart. Those the first 10 minutes that they share with the public are the best part of the movie. So they made people go to the film. And this is kind of the same thing. Like the first part was really good, but then the end just like really sucked for me. You guys can follow me and my daughter on Unyolo Movies blog on Instagram. That's mostly where we have our stuff. We also on Letterboxd, and then we just pop up on people's YouTube because we're too lazy to do our own YouTube because it's a lot of work. And you guys are doing great jobs with the YouTube, and Joe also. I don't know, Nick, but I'm going to check it out. But like you can see us pop up on different shows and stuff. But our main one is on Instagram.
All right, excellent. And before I do my star rating, I just wanted to read to the people my Letterboxd review, because Letterboxd now officially lets you publish reviews on the Marvel TV shows as well. It just treats them as movies, which again, I feel like if that doesn't tell you where cinema is in 2021. So My review, I feel like, is pretty much going to be a summation of everyone's points, which is that it is solidly entertaining in the middle half when they had the guy who did John Wick writing some episodes. Wyatt Russell's a breath of fresh air in the whole MCU, but ultimately it handles it very... Sorry, that cough is written in there. Subtle, in all caps, political message the way you'd expect a gigantically budgeted Disney property would. Seriously, they got to stop with this. It really sucks because acting-wise, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan are turning in career best performances. The villains suck. The whole Sharon twist, in quotes, I saw coming just like the Agatha Harkness one, and even Zemo got shortchanged a little at the end. I still stand by my previous statement that this should have ended with Endgame, because I'm not waiting another 3 years before we actually get something cool again. And with that being said, 3 stars overall. And you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Movie Nerd Reviews. Chris, what are your final thoughts and star ratings, and where can the good people find you on the interwebs? Luke, that was my Facebook post of the day.
Yeah, that's a different tone, but hey man, sometimes you gotta have the hard conversations, right? So I guess, speaking of hard conversations, I guess I'll give you guys my star rating. It sucks because I agree with you, Dom. Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan could not have been any better if they tried, man. They were just knocking it out of the park. And I love all the different sort of real world social ties that Marvel brought in. I just thought they dropped the ball with so many of them. Thankfully, they didn't with the representation of, like, you know, Captain America now being African American. But for the most part, man, we had all these interesting things we could have dove into and these different avenues to explore. And I just feel like the ball was dropped so much where you asked so many important questions and they didn't sort of, they didn't get back around to it. Like, we didn't ever see, you know, what's his name? I'm forgetting right now in the moment. Well, I guess he's not the new Captain America, John Walker. We didn't really get to see that. And that was such a crazy sort of, you know, you could look at that just from the comic book moment of a superhero killing someone, but they clearly took the social, you know, implications in this. And that's like an American soldier killing someone, like, outright in war, and we know that happens, but they went there and then they just drop it. They didn't explore that. And so because of all those missed opportunities, I'm hoping we correct them in the future, or at least further explore them in the future, because that is someone's creative expression. Maybe they felt they did enough just by bringing that up, but for me it wasn't enough because it was so intriguing. And so that's why it's a 2 out of 5 overall. It sucks because it's really hard to say, because they crushed these actors.
Wow.
I hate that about these Marvel series so far.
Yeah.
It feels so bad, but like, I have to be honest.
It's so disappointing, right? It's so disappointing, ultimately.
It is.
And of course, where can the good people find you online?
Yeah.
You and your music that will hopefully be coming out before the end of this year.
Oh, at this point, it definitely will be. And I also have music you can already find up there to get a small taste of, I guess, what I'm capable of. Sure, we'll go with that. At Christian Ivanko. Ivanko spelled Evanko. I'm on all of the social media networks, so just type that in and you'll find it. I was on there pretty early, so I got the handles that I that I wanted. And there's a nifty little tool on most of those social media. It's called the link in the bio. That's where you can find my music. Again, it's at Christian Ivanko, and my other podcast, Talking with Andrew and Chris. Talking spelled the same way we do it here, and it's a show about life, music, everything in between. It's zany, it's bonkers, and I think you guys might like it if you check it out.
And guys, before you wrap up, because I know you're going to do that, I just want to congratulate you guys on another good recap series with this, because you guys are at it every Friday, and it's really a lot of fun for all the people that you bring together to discuss the ins and outs.
Yes, and I'm glad that you brought that
Appreciate
up, Joe,
that.
because as of right now, at least for the month of May, you guys are probably wondering, well, what are the Talking TV boys going to be doing on Friday nights going forward? And I am happy to announce that we are going to be introducing another new segment to the channel overall, that being the Talking TV Variety Hour, which in that every Friday, we will basically have just a random show that we go live with. So this coming Friday, in honor of May the 4th, that is coming out, we are going to have our first annual Star Wars movie draft overall, in which we will be having guests on, and we'll be drafting certain aspects of the Star Wars saga. Then after that, we will be going into certain recaps of other TV shows, and certain nights we're probably just gonna have another random live Talking TV Q&A, just me and Chris talking overall, and maybe having a guest on. And
let me further say, we're gonna obviously cover Loki, we're gonna obviously cover Bad Batch, but it's just like, we don't want to, superhero fatigue is a real thing, and we want to still love these properties, but we also want to show you guys what else we love. You know, I want to show you guys all these weird little little niche shows that I watch, like, for example, Kim's Convenience, which is like one that I've actually been able to get through the noise of all the Disney stuff that we do love covering, but there's more to us, and that's kind of the theme of this show. The hope is to impart to you guys the rest of our palette, because we do think it's rather eclectic, and it's time to sort of show you guys that here on the channel.
Cinema may be dead, but there are other things to watch other than the Disney stuff, and that is what the goal of the variety show will be. I am certainly going to be bringing up some small independent movies that I have been watching, or at least attempting to watch throughout the year overall. It's going to be good. We're gonna bring cinema back with the show overall, and all of that can be found by following us on our social media handles at Talkin' TV, at Talkin' TV Podcast. If you click the link in the bio of this video as well, click the subscribe button on this video, click the like button, click the bell next to the subscribe button. That way, keep getting notified for all the new content that we are going to keep having your guys' way. Our Fast and Furious road to the finish line, our Fast and Furious first time watch series will be premiering very shortly, and we've got so many more podcast topics to give to you guys. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be crazy. Stay tuned, as always, for myself, Chris, Joe, Nick, YOLO. 12 seasons in a short film. Watch more fucking movies, specifically non-Marvel stuff. We'll see you guys next time.